Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Big Down. This your boy Bobby Hill. Hope y'all having a great Sunday. Hope church service went okay for some of y'all. Hope people. Hope people are happy. I know some people are happy. New York Knicks fans are happy. You know, people around here. Uh, Hope everybody having a good afternoon. Hope you having on the way to having a good evening. I like to give as I do every show before I start, give a shout out to my lovely wife, my ride or die, Miss Sandra Hill. You know, I'm her Dominic. She's my lady. You know, you know. And then before I go again, I like to give another. I know I talked about it again, but it was dear to my heart. I like to give another rest in peace to my classmate, Brent Gill. Next to give a my condolences to his family. Sonny, Michael, and mother Miss Brenda Buchanan. You know, Gone but not forgotten. Dear to the heart. One more moment of silence. We're going to talk about, everybody saw what happened last night. Congratulations to the New York Knicks, for winning their first title in 53 years. First time in my lifetime I was seeing them win a title. The closest they ever got, they went in 99 and they went in, I think, in 94. They were actually close in 94. And people, blame, of course, yes, John Starks had that bad game in game seven. And that's what they talk about. But they forget that they were actually almost there in game six. They almost won the game six. But John Stark shot a three that would have won the game for them. But it was partially blocked by Hakeem Olajuwon at the buzzer. It was a good shot, but Hakeem Olajuwon got his hand on it, and that prevented New York. That was the closest they ever came to winning the title in my lifetime. That shot by John Starks in Game Six, and I think it was in Houston. I think because I think New York might have had home court advantage. I'm mistaken because it switched every year. Yes, because in '93 Phoenix had home court advantage. So yes, that was it. Phoenix had home court advantage because I remember that because Bulls went 1-2 on the road. Um, I think New York had it. So I'm saying Game Six was in Houston. Yes, they almost won it in Houston. That's so to see them win it. Like I said, I'm here, been here for 5 years, so I'm sort of like grown into a San Antonio. I never hated the Spurs. And I always because I knew because I met Tim Duncan before in college when my man Banks was in my man Scooter Banks. Shout out to my man 6'9" Scooter Banks. He was at Wake Forest. During that year they won ACC tournament with Randolph Childress. Yeah, I met Tim Duncan up there then, and that's how I sort of followed him. He's a good guy. So I ain't a Silver Cell San Antonio fan, nah, I ain't like that. But I was rooting against him. I wasn't mad that they won. I wasn't mad that Tim Duncan won. I mean, he was good, good guy, good for the game. But now since like I said, I've been here, sort of like became my hometown. So for the team, so I sort of de facto, became what I say de facto became a Spurs fan. When I came a year like a couple of I think they either a year later I think yeah a year later they drafted Wemby. So when I seen it, soon they drafted, they had a picture up, signed. Yeah, I seen this Wemby Yama phase. I seen this phenomenon from the beginning. So yes, but yeah, it was tough. With that being said, like I said, it was good to see when me being a being a San Antonio's fan, Spurs fan, root for the Spurs. It was good to see. To me personally, it was just good to see Mike Brown win. And that's just I'm just being honest the way I am. It's good to see another brother look just like me up there on top of the basketball world winning the title. being happy. This man went through a lot. He went through a lot. I think he coached LeBron James, and went through a lot of scrutiny throughout his career because they were saying he couldn't never, he wasn't good enough to win the big one, even when he had LeBron, and he got that taste of winning when he was with the Golden State Warriors. And was fortunate enough to get that experience, to get him a ring, and sort of expand his coaching, just expand his whole, I would say, his whole repertoire. Because he was only known for defense. He was just a defensive coach. So, and being with Golden State, opened his mind up, to just become a better coach offensively. So, that helped him out now. Of course, he didn't make this team. This team was already assembled when he got here, but he took a good team and made him a great team. And that's a fact. Whenever they had Tom Thibodeau, there was criticism that he played his starters too much, ran them into the ground throughout the regular season. So by the time they played in the playoffs, they didn't have any legs left because he wore them out during the regular season. I mean, you didn't see anything like that with Mike Brown, because even in this series, man, he used his bench, he used his players, and I wish San Antonio would have did the same damn thing. But hey, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Mr. Mike Brown. Not Mr. Mike Brown, Mr. Mitch Johnson. Congratulations, Mike Brown. Salute Mike Brown and his family. This, it's good. That's good in my heart. I'm good to see that. I'm not mad that they lost. San Antonio lost like that. I'm mad how they lost. Don't get me wrong. I'm mad how they lost, but I'm not mad who they lost to. As far as the coach and everything, and Jalen Brunson, man. Like I said, he reminded me of this player. This player I played against when I was younger, out here on the blacktop. But yeah, I like his tenacity, his hunger, the way he just went there amongst, went straight at Wemby and went at him and wasn't scared of him. You got to respect all that, man. Somebody's not afraid. I've seen the other players, they get in lane and what they see Wemby, they done turned around and pivoted and threw the ball back out. Not Brunson. Brunson went up in there. You got over a foot disadvantage, and you having no fear in doing that, man. You got to respect that. You got to respect that. And I felt like last night, for him, to me, this is just to me. Last night with Brunson, that had shades of, I know the circumstances was different. The circumstances were different and everything, but the way that game went, the way he like took that team and put on his back, that reminded me of Game 6 in Utah with Jordan. I know it was different, and Jordan was about to retire. He was at the end of his career, going for a 6th title. I'm talking about, and within the 48 minutes of that game, the way that game transpired, that reminded me of Jordan. How he just took that team on his back and refused to lose. And, their back was against the wall, and they already proved they could come back. So they already had that muscle memory. So he already knew he could come back. So they just stayed strong in there, and that man willed them to a win. And you got to respect that. That little man had big shoulders. He put them boys on their back, even when none of them was playing well. He took it all. I think he scored 45 points, and I think the rest of the team, the other players scored, they made a 49, something. He scored almost like 49% of the team's points. Something like that, 48, 49, almost half of their points. So you got to respect that. You got to respect that man, and I salute them. Jalen Brunson, salute to him, and salute to Mike Brown. Now let's get to the other side of this ball. I'm not saluting Mitch Johnson. And I already told you how I felt about De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox, and like I said, I'm not going to knock him as a player. I ain't going to say him do that because I just know he's a good player because he's in the NBA. He wouldn't be in the NBA if he wasn't a good player. That's a fact. So he is a good player. But he just isn't the player for the Spurs. He need to be on another team, because what they are expecting of him, he cannot provide for them. He cannot provide that leadership, that ball control, that sure, end of the game, the ball in your hands, and you being surefire at the free throw line and stuff like that. What they need to make sure you distribute the ball, get your big man involved, get Wemby. You should be able to drive that quickness you got. You should be able to drive to the lane and force a double team. If they don't force a double team, you should be able to get an easy bucket or, get the ball to Wemby. You get in the lane and act like you don't know what to do. Like, it's your first time it's your first time there, you know. And some of the criticism is saying you act like a rookie. You act worse than a rookie, you know. I'm saying that was very, I don't know. That was very. I wouldn't be if I was a teammate. I would be very pissed. And my coach, man, the coach, he got out. Mitch Johnson got our coach. I don't care. He got our coach. You know, I don't care about when you get to the finals and you get to this point of your career. It don't matter about all that. Inexperience was for the regular season. All that being a rookie and all that shit for the regular season. You in the finals now. You got that for a reason because you know what you supposedly know what you was doing. You know, and as a coach, man, you got to be able to make adjustments on the fly. You see that this ain't working. Why you see continuing doing it, man? After game 4, after your guard sit up there and Fox sit up there and made a careless play that a good point guard would have known not to make. You sit up there and say, "Look, at the end of the game, I'm gonna put the ball right back in his hands again." The guy that made a mistake, I'm gonna put the ball right back in his hands again. Fourth quarter, what he did, he went 0 for 4, 0 for something. Had no field goals, had no assists, anything, nothing. That's the same man. You sat there and do that, and you sat there and watched that happen. You saw that wasn't his night, and you still had him in there, and you had players there on the bench that you could have used. Man, this is the last game of the season. What the hell? What are you saving them for? What are you saving them for? And you got Harrison Barnes. Man, but look at his pedigree, man. He played at North Carolina. He won championships at that Golden State. You trying to tell me this man couldn't have helped y'all in game 4 or game 5? That's what I'm saying. Coaching decision, man. Coaching decision. I know I'm not being no Monday morning quarterback, and no, I'm not damn, hindsight 50-50. I was saying this while it was happening. Simple stuff, man. Simple stuff. I don't think, it wouldn't be so. It wouldn't be frustrated if New York was this outright a better team than San Antonio. And matter of fact, when they interviewed Coach Mitch Johnson, he even said to me, "We lost to a better team." No, man. See that? Look, I don't like that right there. Are you a coach because they lost? You didn't lose to a better team. You was beating them by 20. Every game you was winning by double figures. So tell me how they're a better team. No, they're a more disciplined team. They're a mentally stronger team, and they're a team that has a good point guard. And we don't. The point guard. We do have a good point guard, but you refuse to use him. Use him in limited minutes, man. What are you saving these people for, man? You're in the finals, man. Play your best players. They come to the point whenever at the end of the game. It ain't about playing your damn starters. It ain't about playing whatever. It's about playing the 5 people who are the hottest at that game, and for that game. And if Darren Fox ain't hot, sit his ass down and put Dylan Cooper in there. He should have been starting. Why didn't you start him? Why didn't you change it up? Because what you was doing wasn't working. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't make adjustments on the fly. So that's why people are, reacting the way they're reacting about Mitch Johnson, because that was simple stuff, man. That's not hard. The adjustments he could have made, the adjustment he should have made. Any person who did, even my wife, don't know basketball. She's just learning basketball now. She know what could have she knew on certain things that should have went down that didn't go down. And she didn't been watching basketball like that. She was all like that. You know, first of all, first thing he's asked like why never my Miss Johnson never played Cornette and Wemby at the same time. He never did. I only seen him out there one time. The whole time I've been watching them, like yeah, especially in the playoffs. I only seen them together one time, and that was last night, and that was when Mitchell Robinson got um, that offensive rebound and sealed the game for them. But they ain't been playing together, never played them together, man. So the reason why I said, you know, the reason why that's important because there was no other big body in there with Wimby. So all these big players, all these all these you know power forwards can come in and just lean on Wimby. There was nobody else for them to lean on. And he got the brunt of all that. There was nobody else there. They need an enforcer. They need somebody there that's gonna be tough, physically tough. I mean, Wemby tough, but Wemby small, man. Wemby look like that stick figure you used to draw in damn kindergarten. That's what he looks like right now. He getting a little bit of muscle to him, but he still look like five switches tied together. He do. You know he do. Like five switches tied together with a damn apple on top. You know that's what he look like, man. He ain't physically can take that daggone pounding yet. He can take it a little bit, and then another thing to go with the coaching, why? No, last night, fourth quarter, 5 minutes to go. Why in the world is Wendy on the bench? Who pulls Wendy out? Wow, what's going on, man? I'm serious. You know, this is to Victor Wembanyama. Man, I love him. I think he's going to be the next thing. But right now, if you, this is the championship. You at a damn elimination game. You trying to survive and trying to win the championship, whatever, trying to continue. Why are you sitting down, man? You should be playing every minute, man. And if something is wrong with your conditioning, you need to get another conditioning coach or something. I mean, come on, man. Come on. You the leader. Lead by example. Stay play out there every minute. You know? Get on these players. You as a leader, get on these players, man. Stop being friends with these damn players. Make your damn hey, yo, you need to go. You calling all these people, go holler at Michael Jordan how to treat teammates. And you need to do it like that. If you want to get the most out of your teammates, stop being friends with them. Because obviously being friends with them ain't working. They sit down here tripping out here on the court. You need to put pressure on them. This off season, put pressure on them. This your team. Wembanyama, put pressure on them. Tell them step it up. Make them step it up. The same, man, because y'all had it, man. Y'all came. I know people like they're a year away and all that. Nah, you was there. You was there. You don't know what the future. You don't know what the future has in store right now. Y'all was there. That was y'all time. Y'all had it, and it slipped. Y'all let it slip away. And not like I said, it would be frustrated if it was to a better team, but it wasn't to a better team. Y'all were better than them physically. Y'all were better than them and all that, but they just had more heart. They had more heart. As Master P would say, they had more heart. But like I said, it's all good, just a game, man. People out here this morning, I was out here, man, and they wasn't, people were mad. There were a couple people, man. I talked to this lady. She said she went to the game and showed me some pictures. I think she went took pictures with what's his name, Daniels, and what she said. I know his last name was Daniels. I guess he does like radio for him. Antonio Daniels or something. She told me a picture that she took with him. We were talking about the game and stuff, and just saying, everybody I talked to agreed it was coaching. But, coaching and Fox, everybody agreed. But but like I said, I ain't gonna take no away from New York. They earned it. They earned it. They earned it. We won one of the greatest playoff runs, in NBA history. So you got to give them props, man. They didn't do it by accident. Even though San Antonio did things to make it easier for them, or not make it easier for them, but did things to open the door for them to win this championship. They still had to walk through that door, and that's what they did. They kicked the door open and ran through it. You got to give them props, man. When they saw blood, when they saw the blood in the water, they attacked. I mean, they saw this game 5. They could have easily folded when they weren't playing well. They could have folded, and be like, "Nah, we want to win in New York." But nah, they stuck. Jalen Brunson. That was said was Jordan Light. Jordan Light, like, look, let's go ahead and do it now while we got opportunity. Don't sit up here and wait for it to try to say, "Oh, we're gonna, sacrifice this game to win in New York." Nah, you can't do that. You can't do that. You cannot do that, right? You cannot. You got to, whenever you see that opportunity, you got to snatch it, man, because you don't know anything gonna happen, man. They will set it there, you know, say like, nah, we want to do it in New York. You go to New York and something happens, you know. Brunson, landing on Wembyama's foot and almost rolled his ankle. That would have changed the whole series right there. If that would happen, you know. I'm saying, game things can happen. So that was a great series though. That's one. Hey, honestly, I will say this. That's one of the greatest 5-game series I've ever seen. For real, every game was captivating. I mean, I didn't get to see the first game. I didn't get to see the first one, but I saw the other 4. And they all over captivate. So I know which NBA probably wish they would have went to 7 games and get more of that money, but they can't be upset by you know their finals now. Because every game had 5 great games, 5 captivating games, and a storied franchise, a big market storied franchise won the title. So all that is money for the NBA. So they cannot be upset. For real. But like I said, it was good to see. It was good to experience that. My wife now, she's a basketball. She's straight Spurs now. You know, she's like, okay, basketball season over now. I'm ready for football season. You know, so I don't know I'm doing this because my wife is she's not a football fan, but she watches it. And down here, I'm in San Antonio, Texas. And San Antonio, Texas is only 3.5 hours away from Dallas. So you can imagine who the fans are around here. They're like Cowboy fans around here. Yeah, one of my neighbors over around here got a damn Cowboy damn flag in his garage. So yeah, it's Cowboy country around here. Yeah, she love the Cowboys. She love the Cowboys. So yeah, I'm not a my history with the Cowboys is I used to be now back when I was young, back in the '80s, late '80s, no early mid '80s. I tried to root. I was looking for a team to root for. I really was. I would just watch football. I didn't root for anything. My mom was a Steelers fan, but back then in the '80s, the Steelers weren't that good. And I really wasn't. I watched the I remember the '85 Bears. That was good. But I wasn't a Bears fan, and then I wasn't you know, Redskins or the team formerly known as the Redskins. Um, let's see, what, but I try to, I think one of my classmates was a Cowboy fan. I remember James Dawson. I remember he was a Cowboy fan. He was telling me he liked the Cowboys, so I tried to root for him for one year. I tried to, I'll get him to vote the Cowboy. I'll root for him, but They were 1-15, so they were sorry. So me, being in principal, I was like, man, I can't deal with him. But then another thing is, I heard about this black quarterback that played for Philadelphia. I kept hearing about him. When I first saw him, Randall Cunningham. Then I became an Eagles fan, and I became an Eagles fan up until the Panthers came. Then I started rooting for the home. I was in North Carolina, so I started rooting for the home team, the Panthers. So I was, like I said, I briefly was a Cowboys fan, but then like I said, root for the Eagles. But when I was rooting for the Eagles, I didn't hate the Cowboys. I went real out, because I want an Emmitt Smith fan because I love Barry Sanders, and I always felt like they give Emmitt Smith all his credit because he was on a great team, but Barry Sanders was always the better running back. I always thought that, So, and I I didn't like it. I mean, I ain't a fan of Emmitt Smith too much. I like Michael Irvin. Yeah, I love Michael Irvin. Okay. I never rooted against Michael Irvin. I love Michael Irvin. So that was, so I didn't never like really rule against them and stuff. But I wasn't out here hating on them. Like, I wasn't hating on them and stuff. But I used to get it used to be funny, like listening to the fans stuff, people talking junk about them and form and things like that. So I love, one of my favorite players of all time is Terrell Owens. So I sort of like kind of, I say rooted for him, but I didn't root against him when Terrell Owens was playing, because I was a TO fan. So it's gonna be, like I say, it's gonna be interesting. I ain't gonna, I ain't gonna buy a Cowboy shirt, but probably not watching a lot of Cowboy games. I bought my wife a shirt because she said she want one. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you're gonna see me in a Cowboy shirt. My mom might. She ain't gonna talk to me. My mom gonna talk junk to me. She hate the Cowboys. She's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. While we talking about, this is a great segue. I was talking to my man Ant live, and I told him I was going to do this next time. He's talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I want to give a special shout out to my man Fast Willie Parker. My man Willie Parker. I remember him when he was I'm not gonna sit there and tell y'all like, we were buddy buddy and all that. No, he wasn't like that because he was a lot younger than me. I was friends with his bigger brother, Jay Wayne. We played basketball together. He was on because he was 2 years under me. He had another brother, Jamal, but Jamal was a few years younger than me. When I was in high school, he was in middle school. He came up in high school the year after I left. I think his class came to high school. So I played with his brothers, and we used to go out and there's a park where we stay at, where they stay in the park, apartments and stuff. There's a big park. There's a basketball court there. I used to go out there and play all the time, and I used to go out there and play all the time, and and he used to come out there. He used to be on his little bicycle. He used to be on his bicycle. Always come out there, had his dog with him and everything. So we called him Junior. Little Junior sitting out there, man. I always talk to him. He was always cool, man. Quiet, cool, chill. He was always, this is my man. I left. I went, of course, I left, went to college and, life, whatever. And then a few years later, I looked up, I hear about, Willie, everybody's in there, Willie Parker running the ball. And I looked up, and I'm like, who Willie? That little Willie. And they were like, yo, Willie done swole, Willie done got swole. And I looked at him, man, nigga was all rocked up. I'm like, man, this ain't little Junior. And yes, yeah, he was like that. He was, getting busy. He was getting busy, of course. Y'all, all the stories about the high school. I watched him play his oh, yeah. So I watched him play his sophomore year, junior year. I didn't get a chance to watch him his senior that much, you know. But yeah, that man he had a very impressive high school career. Went to Carolina, and his thing, it was around 2001. My son was born in 2001, and I he had something with his throat, which caused an obstruction in his throat. and we were living in Wilmington, North Carolina, and very common, like, they have certain things happening, people they're transferring to another hospital, like a bigger hospital that have better equipment or better staff or whatever. So they sent him to University of North Carolina Hospital in Chapel Hill. So we went up there and took him up there. He was in there getting seen and getting procedures done, but it took a long time. So, and I hate hospitals, and I wasn't about to sit around all the time. So I just got up and walked. I knew where I was at in Carolina because I've been there a few times before. So I just walked around. So I went to I knew where the practice football stadium at for when I went to football camp during school, and, excuse me, in high school. So I walked over there and I seen the football team. They were doing spring practice. So I went over in the stands and sat there and for a while and watched them, and I knew Willie had went. I knew Willie was at Carolina. And also James Faison was there. And I ain't known he was there. I think he had walked on. But I remember James Faison was nice in high school too. I seen him in Carolina and I was shocked, like, damn, ain't no James was there. But I was like, damn, two dark horses up there. So I was sitting up there. I think they saw me up there sitting in the bleachers. And they threw, James saw me first. He threw his hands up, throwing a little something, and then after a while, they finished doing. I think what they were doing running 150s. There was, that's around the perimeter of a football field, 150 there, like that. So after they finished, he came down. He came down. I came down the bleachers and hollered at James for a little bit and told what's going on. And he was like, "Yo, Willie's over here too, man. Willie's, over here practicing stuff." So after a few minutes, I walked over there. Willie and them came over, and he brought. I remember because he had brought Julius Peppers with him, and he introduced me to Julius Peppers and stuff. And I remember that because I called on like, "What up, basketball star?" Because he was still playing basketball. I think he was still playing basketball, or that was when he decided to not play basketball his last year to concentrate on the NFL. I think he had just got finished something. But yeah, I talked to him for a little bit, and I told Willie while I was up there about my son, what was going on with his throat and everything, and then talked to him for a little bit, and then went back to practice, and I watched him, and I had to go back because the procedure was over with and stuff like that. Fast forward, Willie, he finishes at Carolina, goes to makes the team in Pittsburgh, and the rest of the story. He becomes a starter. Was a damn key force to the team winning the Super Bowl. Had the record touchdown in the Super Bowl. 75-yard touchdown for a record, and all of that. When it's done, he's on top of the world. Super Bowl champion. Everything. He's become a household name, and everything. There's a lot of things, a lot of people pulling at him, a lot of people doing this, a lot of people doing that. But then, I think he comes to Clinton, or I see him somewhere, Clinton at a football game, whatever. I see him. This is in the middle of all this fame, all this and everything. And he comes out of I see him and everything. The first thing he does is ask me how my son was doing. And I never forget that. And I never forget that with Willie, man. And that always touched me with him. So yeah. Fast Willie, yeah. I don't know if I did the last time I did it with this hand. I think I did the wrong hand. This hand right here, right hand. Yeah. So yeah. So yes, as I just want to share that story, man, because I just everybody got stories about everybody. A lot of people probably tell you stories about Willie, football related, whatever. But that's just a personal story I have with him that I told my man Ann about, man. And just show the human side of people, man. Everybody that you see out here in public and stuff like that, man. But everybody, there's a human. Everybody's a human, man. Everybody has a heart. Everybody got feelings, man. So it's good to see. It's good to know that that people genuinely care. How they would genuinely care about you, or genuinely care about, whatever situation you're going through and stuff. And that, makes you feel good. Makes you feel good, and that's never a bad thing. So yeah, if you hear this, Willie, this and let you know, just give me a shout out, my brother. Keep going, keep being positive, man. I know you're doing positive things, man. Keep doing it, man. Keep doing it, my brother. Love is always here, man. Always in San Antonio. I got you down here. Your name will still be in the streets down here. All right. That being said, I'd like to thank y'all for sharing this Sunday with me. I just want to get these things off my chest last night because it was very, you know, hmm. It's on nerve wracking them, but just there's certain things I want to say because I know everybody's gonna have a lot to say tomorrow, Lord. And glad it happened on a Saturday and not a Sunday, because Lord, if it happened Monday, it's gonna be crazy anyway. Everybody gonna have thing they got have a lot to say, so they have at it. I have to get my 2 cents in, you know. I appreciate y'all being here with me. I appreciate y'all for listening to me. I appreciate y'all for giving me your time, man. And trust me, I really appreciate it, man. I love all of y'all. For y'all stepping up, coming back, listening to me. Even if you ain't here with me live, you go back and look at it. I appreciate it. Everything. I love all of y'all. I hope all y'all be safe out here. I hope all y'all be safe, be smart. Just and like I said, be safe. Let's be safe out here, man. It's crazy out here in this world. Just be safe. That's all I ask y'all. Y'all just be safe, man. However it is, be safe. Whatever it is, just be safe. I love y'all. I will see y'all Monday. Since Sunday is the start of the week, I'll see y'all later on this week. I'll see what's start back. I'm sorry, last week got off track a little bit. I was going Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so next week this week I might try to get back on track. So I might be here tomorrow. I'll be here tomorrow with something else. Start back that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so we can get this thing going. I love y'all. Be safe. Have a good night. Kiss your kids, kiss your loved ones. Tell everybody you love them. Tell them don't wait. Just tell them right now. Because you never know, man. They might not wake up in the morning. You never know. It might be it. So if you got something you got to say, tell that person you love them. Tell that person you care for them. Tell them how you feel about them. Tell them how they make you feel. So go ahead and get it off. Don't hold it. You never know. When you try to hold it, it don't always work out the way you want it to. I love y'all. I hope y'all have a good night, and I will see y'all later. Mwah.